You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box, where you get the inside scoop on the steps action takers and decision makers take to align their purpose to their principles and achieve their goals in business and life. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now, without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, No Labels, No Limits podcast listeners. I want to grab just a couple of minutes before we start today's podcast and let you know about a new membership community that's opening up. It's called the Sandbox. Now, the Sandbox was explicitly designed so that folks like you who have big dreams and goals, who are working on busting through limiting labels and beliefs, who are overcoming challenges, have a place to come, to be encouraged, to get tips and tools, to meet other people and share ideas, and just relax. So as a member, you're going to have exclusive access to an extensive library of training, tools, and resources that have been meticulously crafted over the years. But that's not all. You are actually in the driver's seat, so you can help shape the direction of the content and the Sandbox. So what's actually in the Sandbox? Well, there will be expert sessions that will be tailored to your needs with a focus on the questions that come from our community. There are group learning sessions, live trainings, Q&A sessions, and we will be sharing inspiring membership success stories. You will have an opportunity to learn and grow alongside fellow Sandbox community members. If you need guidance or support, our online forum is going to be the perfect space to engage with other members, ask questions, find motivation, and share your success with the Sandbox community. We are committed to your success, and that's why we're offering monthly challenges and support check-ins, ensuring you're always on track. So click the link below and put your name either on the waiting list or sign up today for the Sandbox community, and we'll see you there where the dreams will be unleashed and you will start making rapid progress. Hey there, and welcome to this episode of the No Labels, No Limits podcast, a podcast all about helping action takers and decision makers like you align with your purpose, your principles, and achieve your goals, whether that's in business or in life. I'm Sarah, your host. You know, I'm really fortunate because I get to work along nonprofit leaders and their teams as they reach their goals. And most often that happens because they stay true to their vision, their values, their beliefs, and actually their purpose so they can take informed action. And our team likes to say, we serve nonprofits like we serve our families, and we love our families. So on today's podcast, we are joined by Lara. Now, Liz, I've known for a number of years. She's the Family Services Program Specialist at Chino Valley Unified School District in Southern California. And she is considered, she wouldn't say this about herself, but she's considered a powerhouse and a champion for children and families. So for over 2 decades, Liz has been at the forefront of transforming lives through her work. She's a true expert in overseeing contracts, grants, and district-based social services support, and her ability to secure funding and for essential programs actually has been the lifeblood for so many of those programs. But that's really just like what she kind of does things, and that not even all of it. She's written several state and county grants. But why that matters is that those have provided these crucial supports for early childhood education populations, their families, English language learners, low-income families, homeless students, and their families. So you think about the breadth of kids and their families who have benefited from Liz's leadership and her commitment. And it's her drive, I would say, that has led to the expansion of family resource centers to multiple sites, including satellite locations. She's also behind initiatives like a youth mentoring program, food pantry project called Community Care Closet, and various incredible community events. And if that's not enough, she's also involved in numerous collaboratives and task forces. All of those are with the goal of promoting strong municipal and educational alliances, which is what Liz and I are going to actually talk about today. I want to talk to her because she's not only been in this work for a lot of years, has a lot of experience, but she's also a really strong team builder. her team is they're diverse in their thinking, in their passions, but not in their commitment. And so that's exceptional. So what we're going to talk about is what cross-sector alliances or collaborations are or are not, the benefits of working with those, some of the challenges of that, and what it takes to create and nurture and then sustain a successful cross-sector alliance. I need to shorten that. And really how to stay the course when the going gets tough. Because, anytime we're in relationship with people, we hit those bumps. So as you can see, we are going to have some fun talking with Liz today. And with all of that, let's just dive right in. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Sarah. That was very sweet. That was nice hearing it. All those
things. True. It's true. So it's easy to be nice when you're saying something true.
Thank you.
So let me ask you, what exactly is a cross-sector alliance? How does that get interpreted in your world?
Yeah, that's really, my world, anybody's world is really kind of stepping outside of the traditional. For us, it would be education. It's kind of easy to I know it's not always perfect, but it's easier to collaborate with other schools and, other educational nonprofits. It's tougher when you're kind of going cross-sector, like your municipalities, your cities, something completely different with your businesses, with other completely different nonprofits. I think that's where it gets a little bit trickier. It's kind of out of the norm and kind of stretches you. And so what we have been super blessed to be able to do is just continue to build on our collaborative. Really, we've had a strong collaborative within the Chino Valley for a while, but kind of building from that and just breaking the mold of a traditional collaborative into something stronger, more defined, really becoming an alliance. And so kind of like what that looks like.
What is the distinction then between an alliance and a collaborative, Liz?
Yes. So a collaborative is a lot of, like, to simplify it, it's like, we're going to help you. We're going to come alongside you. And so we can collaborate with you by, donating A, B, or C, or, we're going to get an MOU to kind of exchange services, or we're going to support. An alliance really steps up from that. It's saying we will come alongside you. And whether you fail or thrive, we're going to continue. We're going to go at it. It's not going to be a one and done. It's going to be something continued, and we're going to plan long-term, and we're going to have long-term goals. And so, in other words, we're in it with you, not just in the event type of thing. We're going to be with you throughout this year, throughout next year. In other words, we're building each other into each other's future.
Okay. So let's get specific and talk about the HOPE program, because that really is the cornerstone for my thinking of this conversation. Right. And since our listeners don't know anything about it, and it's just in my head and your head, obviously, much more so, share a little bit about what the program is and how it came about.
Yeah. So HOPE, well, I should go back a little bit further. When I came on, and that was like 20 plus years ago, I really came on to work with ECE. So early childhood education, a collaborative within Chino Valley had written an ECE grant actually for First 5 San Bernardino. And they kind of gave it to me and said, here, can you oversee it, run it, manage it? And by the way, we're collaborating with the YMCA, with the city, with San Bernardino State, Superintendent of Schools, the preschool department, and kind of like, I was like, what in the world do we do with this? But really, we began small. As big as that sounded, it was small. We were serving 0 to 5, but we really began to lay the groundwork for our systems and kind of like getting to know our partners, our community, what the needs were. Fast forward about 10, almost 15 years, I want to say. It was about 13 years. Our superintendent at the time had begun to really realize that there were some major needs happening in the Chino Valley that were going unaddressed. And so the coordinator of student support, who was in charge of like going out and making home visits, in other words, finding those kiddos who were not attending school, consistently. And so they had truancy issues. The home visits really came about, and they were seeing families who were living, beyond anything what we could imagine. Facilities without, back houses without electricity, back houses without water, 10 people in one garage. So all of these things came to light. And our superintendent pretty much gave a call out to the community, who was Mr. Wayne Joseph at the time. And at a school board meeting, he said, we're in a good position financially. By then, we had kind of toughed out these lean years, from the state and the state budget. And he's like, we're in a good position now to really start thinking about these services that we need to add. And so I am calling on the community, the Chino Valley community, really step up. And so we called it Hope, and it was helping our people every day. And what he wanted to bring in these leaders from the community and begin to brainstorm about what we could do to better serve these high needs families, these students who were at risk of, just kind of falling through the cracks. So what happened was these leaders came about. And so actually, it was actually one of our city leaders who said, that there's already a smaller resource. There's something already kind of in place where we collaborate, but it's being done on a small level. And so I knew Mr. Joseph. He used to, when I was working at Chino High, he was actually the principal there. And so he called me up and he's like, I've heard that you're doing this. I'm like, yeah, it's on a smaller level. He's like, I need you to come and talk to cabinet. We need to come in. If it's already in place, let's expand this. And so he took really the bull by the horns and really kind of maneuvered into this, like, we already have something set up, like pretty much the infrastructure was there. If we give you additional money, can we expand it so that we can serve K through 12? And that's really how Hope came about. They gave us, initially it was $250,000 that first year, and then they doubled it the second year and said, we like where this is going, and gave us funding called LCAP, Local Control Accountability Program or Planning. And so then it was new money coming in from the state that gave districts a little more leeway as to how they could use that money. And so then it was one of those where we came back and we talked to our partners, our existing partners. We went to the city of Chino and said, we will need more case managers. Can you do that? Yes, we will need to do this. We spoke to our YMCA. Can we continue partnering with you? And that's really where it came about. And so it's going to be 10 years next year. And we probably have close to maybe about 55 collaborative agencies and about maybe 10 alliances. So these are alliances that are like strongly built. They are there with us every step of the way. If something comes up, they're there pretty much to kind of like, okay, what is it you need? How can we assist? How can we support you? So that's really how it's come about.
Do your alliance partners, they function as an advisory kind of clear the path when there's obstacles for you guys?
In a way, but it's a little different because you have to remember. So with the city, they really are coming in as a support system in areas that the district can't touch. Okay. So just for example, especially post-pandemic, we had so many families who were falling behind, right, with rent, utilities, all of that. They had CDBG funding and some additional funds coming from state and federal that they were able to access directly. And so we were, through our family, our educational, so district-run resource centers, we were able to connect them immediately to assistance to those municipal funds. So if it was water, if they were delayed with their water bill or SCE or gas, any of those things, if they didn't qualify. So that's like one area of an alliance. Then we had our other groups. So we had a Christian ministry that had received a pretty large benevolence fund. And they said, we want to partner with you. We want to help you, whatever you need. So if something was happening and the city couldn't address it, then we'd go to our Christian partners. And then we had our fire foundation who said, like, if there's an area that can't be tackled with these groups, you need to come to us. So we had all of these safety nets going, everywhere to really be able to, again, kind of surround our community with all those supports that might come up that education can't address those things, but other people could.
So there's two key things that you mentioned that I'm hoping listeners don't miss the point. So when Mr. Joseph found out that there was a small version of what they had been talking about at cabinet, rather than say, we are the great guys who made this up, right? They came to you and said, can you expand? Can we
Correct.
build on what's already there? You've got the bones in place. Can we
Correct.
build it out, right? So oftentimes that's not what happens. Someone says
Right.
There's money or we have support. We need to do our own thing because it's an ego thing. We want our name on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was unique.
Yes.
That was different in that. I mean, I know other people have done that as well, but I think sometimes I've seen people do it in name, like they say, we want to build on you, but we ultimately want to change you. We don't like you the way.
Correct.
we just want to buy your stuff. It's like, it's a hostile takeover.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a way that where the intentions are good, but the consequences down the road aren't that great, right?
Correct.
So, but you were also, the other point is you were willing to step up and take a risk and expand, right? Because that's a big influx, a big growth, right?
Right.
So how did you bring your team along when you were doing that, Liz?
Yeah. And if I can also kind of add, yes, it's a big stretch, but you have to remember too, we already had some good partnerships in place. We had trust, we had built up trust with some of these agencies. So yes, it was kind of like, this is a big leap, but we also knew what we were getting. We knew that we were already working correctly with some really good partners. So
you had systems
have challenges.
In place.
We did. And the systems, and also we had the collaborative. So before it turned into an alliance, the collaborative was in place, meaning we knew how to collaborate. It wasn't like the first program. We had a number of programs that the city would actually staff, like they subcontract with the district. And so they were taking care of after school programming. They helped with tobacco prevention. So there were other things already in place. So we knew what we were getting. So that definitely was a benefit.
So you went in with your eyes wide open.
Correct. And so really it was about the expansion. Yes, we tripled in size the first year. So right off the bat, it was having to find good people who also kind of aligned with our vision and what we were wanting to do. And really kind of, we really wanted their heart to be in the right place. And we asked them from the very beginning, you have to be flexible. We're really kind of growing and learning this program as we're going along. So that was a big piece of it. And again, just having good relationship with the city. Like I have been on every single panel. So our case management team staff is the largest part of the component here. And so the city from the beginning said like, hey, we want you on every panel. So I have a say in who's coming onto our team. Isn't that something too, right? Instead of like, no, we're going to just send you who you want. So right off the bat, so it's been tons and tons of interview panels that I've been on, but I can go in and I can sit with coordinators and people who are going to oversee them. And we can really find the right fit right from the beginning. So that's huge.
Because they're city employees.
Correct.
Who are working in your space.
Correct.
Right. And typically the employer maintains all of that control.
Correct. So that breaks the mold right off the bat. So they are sitting in educational space, right, at our district offices, and then they go out to all these school sites. If a family can't get to us at one of the resource centers, then they will drive out to a school site, and then we find space. And really it's become where we're seamless. And so, they wear their Hope badge and staff sometimes don't even know, like, oh, you're part of the program. They don't ask, oh, your city, or no, it's like it's one project. We're all working towards that same goal of supporting our students and our families. So really, I mean, it's taken a bit, but we're to the place where it's become seamless. It's become operational.
And listen, folks, remember, she's talking, this is a decade into this, where the alliance is there. Yes. And they had the pre-work. So this isn't one of those things like you see a big grant come out. We want to fund a collaboration, right? And it's like, and you've got 3 years to show us results. We're thinking 3 years. You guys were still building and testing your trust in your relationships, right? At 3 years.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
and so
right.
There's the ability for someone to hold a longer term vision.
Yes.
Kudos to Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Right? But that leads me to another question. So here you have this very charismatic leader, and I'm going to ask you about your video project so people can go and hear his words and his voice, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you have this charismatic leader who then retires, right?
Yes.
And not that long after, right? How long after this got going was he able to help champion?
I think, let's see. So he retired, I want to say 5 years ago. Okay. So really kind of
midway,
like 4 years in, exactly 4 years in, and then he retires, and we're kind of like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen, right? I mean, he was the founder of Hope, and kind of like it was his brainchild, his baby, and so some nervousness kind of happening. And I remember him always saying like, no, this is good work. This is good work, and it has to continue. And again, kind of the buy-in from the community. a lot of assurances, a lot of like, hey, he may be leaving, but we believe in this work. We believe in serving our community. We believe in what we're doing for kids. So really that reassurance along the way. And it probably took a couple of good years to kind of be like, you know what, we took a hit. We took a hit with our leadership at the top, but we can do this. Again, having grown some roots and kind of really been established in the community. And then again, we had so many amazing partners who continued. And so even though we kind of lost one, someone else kind of comes in and supports and fills in that hole, that gap. So the work continues. If you're willing, the work continues.
So I think that's important. If you're willing, the work continues. If you're willing. Because there are those ebbs and flows. Anytime you lose major leaders at the top of an organization, it creates one pause. Not necessarily people don't think you can do your job, but they're just wondering, will you do your job?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How much was the work dependent on that person? Yes. Which is kind of the brilliance of your structure, right?
Yes.
Right. So someone might say, well, I don't know if the city pulls their staff, and you're thinking, well, we just need a person or an alliance member who will staff that function.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's an amazing long-term relationship though, because everybody wants their silos. They want control of their dollars,
so
it's
much
kind of a pie in the sky.
But I remember my mentor, my first director at Health Services, and she was very collaborative. I mean, her bones screamed collaborative. And so she gave me, the project and kind of said, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, collaboration is hard. It's picky and it's details. And it's, if one thing goes wrong, then 10 things sometimes kind of fall apart. It's the hardest thing. She goes, but is it worth it? Absolutely. She's like, it's absolutely worth it. If we can make it work, she's like, it's so much. She said, the benefits will just keep coming. And I always remember that. I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, what is she setting me up for? But it's true. If you can invest in it, it is absolutely a long-term investment that will just pay dividends down the road. But it is hard.
But that's like any relationship, Liz.
Yeah, that's true.
If we just do a flyby on it, it's nice in the moment, but then, it takes time. You have to figure out when the shine goes off, the polish goes off. It's like, you still want to be connected to what's underneath. And if the answer is yes, you have to just like get on with it, move beyond and keep focused. So
absolutely.
So talk a little bit about how you went from this process, the pandemic hits, you guys weathered the pandemic, you had to do a lot of pivoting. Share a little bit about that, because schools were shutting down. I mean, you guys were under nonprofits, first of all. I mean, they had to pivot and stay active for the most part. Schools had a whole other level they were dealing with. And like you were saying, you're not in control of everything.
Right.
So how did you and your team and the collaborative alliance make it through?
Yeah. So that was talk about pivoting. Yes. And so, schools shut down and, we were sent home for a little bit until we kind of got some, health and policies in place. And then right off the bat, our district realized like we were kind of almost like the first responders, like we needed to be there. So we were actually called back into the office. And so we were one of very few departments and programs that were working from the office. And so what that meant was all of a sudden we had kids and families who were home. And so they didn't have meals anymore. So we have, we work with a lot of our like lower income families who, rely on either food pantries, and food pantries were shut down. So we were having to figure out how can we get some really high needs items to our families. So that was one thing. The other thing too is within our care closet, it's called our community care closet. We have hygiene supplies and we have clothing and everything. So we had families that were becoming very sick. And so, you couldn't find a Lysol, like a Lysol spray or wipes if your life depended on it. So again, the call out to our community, we need cleaning products. They were coming and dropping off these really hard to find items at our clothing closet. And then we were making either drop-offs or we had something on our campus where it was just like kind of we had a small table and boxes, and we would put things in paper bags and staple it with the family's name. And so these families would come by and pick up their Lysol, pick up their snacks, pick up anything that we could do. Our nutrition services began to do meals at school sites. And so we would be calling our families, go pick up your meals. And so they were doing it at a week at a time so they could drive by, pick up meals. So talk about pivoting. We had to really kind of hear what our families, what they were kind of going through, and then being there to assist. We had so many families that they didn't know how to work like the Wi-Fi, and families who didn't have Wi-Fi, right? Our Spanish speakers that didn't know, like, okay, I've got a kindergartner and a first grader who needs to kind of log in, but I don't know how to do it. So there we are. Our team is kind of coaching them. And so you're going to do this. And here's a hotspot. You'll do this, A, B, and C. So what our team did was we kind of became the stopgap. And so anything that really was going to be a barrier to our students, their education, their well-being, their mental health, their safety, all of that, we were figuring out. We were trying to find clinics. We had a COVID clinic that's set up at our campus, and just really kind of coordinating every kind of service and resource out there. We became kind of like the central hub. And really that's what we ended up doing. Our service numbers went through the roof in those 2 years. Honestly, they were incredible. Just the amounts, the units of service, the calls, the home visits that we were able to do. Sadly, we had a number of families that lost loved ones during that time. They had grandparents who were living in the home. They had an aunt. We had a few students. We had parents who unfortunately passed away from COVID. What about funeral expenses? What are we going to do? We can't even, and we are calling our Christian fund, our partners. Yes, we will help with, from our benevolence fund, we'll help with so much to help towards funeral expenses. Yes, we can do this. So it was a test. It was really a test of will and strength and ingenuity and being innovative and how we could best provide these services. But it really did stretch us. It was a tough time, but it was a really good time to see the community kind of step up.
When you reflect back on that now, does that, like the way people came together for you, for your families, for your community, does that ever bolster you when things get tough now?
Absolutely. Yes, it is. It's a great, those great success stories and just the stories of resiliency and kind of just, overcoming challenges. Absolutely. Because if I make my program sound like it's just so great and we're just doing all these, we are, but there's so many challenges that happen every day. There's ups and downs and everything.
Well, you're working in a system. Anybody who's dealt with a system, right? A government system,
absolutely,
or a big business, right? We all have these like bureaucracies. You're thinking that is the craziest thing I ever heard of. That's slowing us down. It's creating friction.
Absolutely, yes. And so again, it's a great reminder, though, of how far we've come. And again, never taking saying oh, we did this or, oh, the district. No, it's been our community partners, our community, just loving on people, loving other people, regardless of where they're from, what's going on with them, political, race, everything. They just care about people. And so that's the true testament, the testament that the community can kind of come behind, other families in need. That's the real story.
It is a real story. So I want to ask you to share about, a year, I think probably a year and a half ago, you got the notice, but you were awarded by the state of California to take everything you've done, develop a curriculum so that other school districts who are so inspired can replicate, right?
Yes.
So how did that come about and where are you in that process?
Yeah, so really exciting. It actually came about, it was an opportunity because of the federal funds that had been coming down to states, the ARP money, American Recovery Program money, I believe, or American Recovery Planning, something like that. But these extra funds that were held to kind of, were supposed to bolster, again, education and the barriers and the obstacles being faced. And so this came to the California Department of Education from the homeless department. So in other words, we have a few grants through them supporting our work with McKinney-Vento students. So those are considered homeless, those that are that are doubled up, tripled up in shelters, those students that just don't have a stable place to live. So the RFP went out and was asking for LEAs, local educational agencies, to who had something to share. In other words, who had these model innovative strategies on how really to partner or how to best serve homeless populations. And so we took it and we said, we can definitely share about our collaborative and our alliances and how we cross, how we serve between sectors, we cross sector. And the state absolutely loved it and awarded us funding for 2 years. The first year is to build the curriculum and really kind of be able to share with other LEAs, charter schools, any kind of, local educational agency. Really, we've made it so that any other nonprofit or anybody else can really kind of grab some ideas from it as well, and be able to place it on the state website and be able to share. And so that's the first year. The second year is really kind of once it's assisting to implement, it's really kind of being available to offer technical assistance to other LEAs. It's sharing it, it's promoting, it's going and being a part of like a professional development at maybe other conferences. So really it's kind of opened up, it's given us a lot of opportunities to be able to share. And again, when we go in, the strategies aren't just for our homeless innovation programs. It's really for anyone who wants to serve in a cross collaborative sector, like a fashion. So that's where we're at, where we've wrapped it up. We're just waiting for final authorization to kind of launch and share the curriculum. And then that also gave us an opportunity to work with you and with Ken to produce a Hope overview video and some other supporting videos as well, that really just kind of puts a face and kind of like a visual to everything that we're doing. And so that's been super exciting.
Well, it was fun for me to watch the videos. So for folks listening, what she's referring to is we have a full service media piece for the coaching and consulting that we do at the Sarah Box team, or now we like to say in the sandbox, where we create with our friends and family. But Liz specifically wanted some help getting the story out. And I remember, Liz, I was rewatching videos because I love to get inspired and I have access to videos, so why not get inspired? But you were talking about how in the beginning you had so many stories, but you didn't know what stories, even like you were in the work, you couldn't see the work. But so when it started pouring out of you and you had your team involved in this, so it wasn't just all your brainchild, right?
Right.
People were saying, no, I think we should talk to so-and-so and this person. But when you saw those stories external, what was your reaction to that? And have you had any feedback from folks? I know they're not publicly put out there yet fully.
Yes. Yeah. So I think one of the best experiences when they were still like under revision, but Ken and your team had kind of said, like, we want you to share with your team and kind of get some feedback. And we were able to show our entire team, which is about 20 people, case managers, district staff, support people, our front office. And so we had this full house and we viewed it. And we also had a few reps from the city. So our city coordinator and our city supervisor overseeing the projects. And so I remember I had already kind of seen it. I had gotten choked up just kind of watching it. I'm like, and I don't get choked up. I don't cry easily. I really don't. But I remember getting choked up. But as the video is playing, I was looking at everybody else's faces and their faces were so the video ended, and mind you, it is a 20-minute video, but every single person is just doing, grabbing the tissues, and they the best responses. They were just like, oh my goodness, this really, really does. They said, if it didn't get you, you don't have a heart, is pretty much what they came up with. If it didn't get you, if it didn't make an impact, then you probably don't have a heart, just because the families and the students were so they just exceeded our expectation. They spoke from the heart. There was no agenda. They were just so real and so sincere and so transparent. Do you know what I mean? The vulnerability to be so transparent, to talk about something so delicate as we were homeless and we were sleeping in a car and we had to shower at the YMCA, and just to share their story. I was truly blown away. I was blown away. It was more than anything. We hear in the confidentiality of our, our little intake rooms and our offices and story after story, but to actually be okay they were said, it's okay. If this is going to help somebody else, we want to share a story. That blew me away.
Yeah. You didn't have, I remember when we were talking about, you had your preferred list, I guess I would call it, Like, here's our top folks. If they would say yes, it would be so great.
Yes.
And I think you got yeses from everybody.
From every single person.
Yeah.
Every single person we asked.
Because I remember being really surprised when you got back to us and you said, oh, we're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
But And the young woman who used to have to walk so far to school, I mean, that got me, you know, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but what you did for her life and just the hope she has, the focus she has.
Yes.
You know, and I thought, oh, love that. Just love that. Because it's easy to say we serve McKinney-Vento kids, right? That is anonymous. We don't have faces to that. We don't know who kids are. And we don't even know who kids who hang out with our kids are. Like, they just look regular. They're kids, right? They look like regular kids. But you don't know that once they leave you, they're really in some dire straits.
That's exactly it. And you know, over the years, I'm so glad you said that, Sarah, because really these kids, these are shadow kids. And so they do their best and they do their part to not be seen. These kids are embarrassed. They have a lot of shame. Like there's worry, there's anxiety. Like, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what, if I'm getting picked up, or I don't, mom is super upset because we have to move out by the end of the month and we have nowhere to go. So these kids don't say oh, but they don't do that. They want to be in the shadows. And so, to be able to work with them and for them, again, just the vulnerability and just the transparency to be so open with us is really, I mean, it's a precious thing. And we don't ever want to break that. We don't ever want to, we don't want to ever make it less than what it is. It really is. It's a privilege for us to be able to do that in that moment.
Well, and to their own grit for hanging in there. The brothers who finally, they were super excited. They had their own room. They could study in quiet.
Yes.
Stuff that other times people just take for granted.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So we've talked about what it takes to sustain it beyond a leader transitioning and how to nurture your team. So how do you and your folks stay the course now when the road gets rocky? What do you and your team talk about?
Yeah. What do we talk about? I think we're close. I think our team, we're pretty close. And I've heard lots of people say before, you're not supposed to be that close as a team, because regardless, it's a business and it's, if something was to happen, you have to kind of differentiate and separate. I don't believe in that at all. I think that and so we call ourselves a work family, and we've had some people say yeah, no, I don't think I'm okay with that. And, the whole boundaries thing. And I'm like, oh, of course there's boundaries, but really the hard work that we do, maybe if we were in finance and if we, did audits or something, it'd be a little bit different. But we are in the work of social services. And what that means is we are working with people sometimes at the most critical part of their lives. They might have some really hard stuff that they're going through, or they might be just desperate. And so if we can't be real with each other, we're going to have a real tough time being real with them. And then they can spot us a mile away. If we're just there and we're kind of here, here's a resource, good luck to you and everything. And so I think that what we have, so we encourage each other, first of all. That's a big piece of it. And I think that it's a very encouraging environment. So we have biweekly, we do what we call file review. So that is where we all sit in a room and we talk about those tough cases, or sometimes we're just you know what, you guys, I'm overwhelmed. I'm really behind. And so somebody else be you know what, I can take your next cases, or I'll do this, or I'll cover for you. That's always intersected with either some professional development or a new resource or something. And what we try to do too is we try to end with something positive. So it could be a simple team building or some kind of a game or something, because honestly, when we're going through such serious things, I mean, people who are just, again, I just don't think that people realize how difficult, and with inflation being what it is, what rent, Sarah, what we see time and time again right now, there's no stoppage right now. No. So if you have a family that is making minimum wage and their rent is $2,500, plus all utilities, plus this, plus that, they are coming in, and the stress level, and of course, the kids and everything else, what we are seeing is meltdowns at the highest level. And of course, this affects our kids. So we're talking mental health and physical health and lack of engagement. So if we are not really there listening to the pieces of it, to all of it, and we're not there, again, we can't just say like, okay, well, we're just going to get you tutoring. And so good luck to you on your rent, or good luck to you, with your food costs. We're not being holistic. We're not being, are we really supporting the family? Probably not. So it is heavy. It is extensive. It is hard. We practice trying to leave it at home, trying to, the end of the day and like, okay, we'll be here tomorrow to kind of pick it up again. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes, situations are just really, really hard. But for the most part, we have each other. That's why the importance of having a really good team who has the same vision, has the same heart. So really compassion for people, empathetic, just a heart to serve, because that's the other thing too, is are you just here to kind of get the experience and move on? Or are you really, truly trying to serve? You're here because you want to make a difference. And I think that's one of the big pieces too, surrounding yourself with those people who have the same heart as you. So we just, a lot of good camaraderie, a lot of good relishing when we've got good moments, because other times we might be crying over the hard moments for sure.
Yeah. And I think I'm with you in that it's more of a family and a work environment. Yeah. Whether people are comfortable calling it or that or not, but right. I think if you think of it in that way, assuming that you have a healthy family framework, whether or not your family's healthy or not, it's another issue. But in your mind, it's like, okay, this is what I know. Yeah. But if you're really coming from a caring place, it helps other people know they can ride the storm.
Exactly.
What was I talking to someone? They brought this up. They said, I love this term. And I think I'm stealing it, right? Hold out. Sure. But really, It's having that grace in the gap when we can't be our best selves. Someone holds that space for us so Absolutely. That we'll be back.
Absolutely.
Rather than stressing you out further, going, oh, sorry, you can't cut it. You're out. Right.
Exactly. And grace with ourselves as well, because, oh man, it's a lot, and we're all going to have our tough days and our bad days. And so just kind of giving ourselves a lot of grace as well.
I agree. Okay. So I do this. I'm totally shifting gears here before we wind this up, but we're doing this new thing. It may not be totally new by the time I air this, but I'm asking podcast guests to take a moment and learn from one of our previous guests, random. We're not saying who, we don't care, but we want our podcast guests, the ones coming on, to share something they gained from a previous person who left a nugget and maybe how that hit their heart. And then we can let that guest know also.
Yeah, no, I think we're kind of talking about this earlier, but I had listened to Bill Murphy, and he talked about thriving in the storm. And that spoke to me, again, professionally, and it just, kind of reinforces everything that we were talking about, in this past hour, right, Sarah? It's like thriving in the storm. And so it's not just riding it out. It's not just kind of like holding on for dear life, finding the grit to kind of not just survive, but thrive. And so really that is something that has spoken to me personally. It's spoken to me again, professionally. And then something else that it said too, you don't have to have exceptional talent or resources to overcome adversity, to be resilient, or to achieve extraordinary goals. If that doesn't talk to someone, I don't know what does. So you don't have to be, I don't consider myself like, I am not that great. Like I am just this normal person who just really enjoys what we do, what I can do, the God-given opportunity that God has really given me to kind of be in a place where I come across families and students who could use help. And then we have all of these wonderful resources that are made available. And so how awesome is it that we can facilitate, this giving and this getting and this receiving, and just being a benefit? Because I'll tell you what, the students and the families are thrilled when someone comes around and supports them. But those also, the people who are giving, they are blessed. They are happy. They have such, oh my goodness, joy in their heart, knowing that what little they gave or whatever it is that they did also brightened up someone's day. So it's a win-win. And so really it kind of comes back to we can all do something. We can all do something. We all have something, either talent. For me, I think I just have a lot to say. I mean, like, right. I just have something to say and something to share, and just being able to do that. I mean, we can all make a difference.
Well, you're a can-do person. You have always been a can-do person.
Can-do person.
I've watched your face when people in a room have started going, we can't do this. And your face is like, oh, please, are we doing this again? It's like, yes, we can. Come on, let's do it.
We have to.
So Liz, people I know are going to hear this and think, okay, I might not be in California, but can I still reach out and find out how this might play in my community? And are they able to reach out to you guys?
Yes.
Or where could they learn more about the curriculum?
Yes. Yeah, by all means, you can always go to our website. So it's the Chino Valley Unified School District website. And so then you will go in under programs, you will find Hope Program, or you can search and go into that page. And there's something that says, tell us about yourself. You can send us a little bit about yourself, your questions, and we will be more than happy to get a hold of you. And we have programs and LEAs, nonprofits throughout the state who hear about us and say, hey, can we have a virtual tour of your closet? Or how did that get started? Or we would love to know more. How did your alliance with the city get started? And so we are more than happy to share, what our experience is. And do we have it all down? No, but we can definitely share with you what worked and what didn't. We'll be more than happy to do that.
Well, and once the toolkit is published,
yes.
The curriculum is published, you have specific items in there and examples that people can take advantage of. So that always helps people get a leg up on where they're going. I think when you can look at something and go, oh, 85% of this fits for us, and the other we can have a conversation about. So
Yes. And so that curriculum, I think the first session is all about community collaboratives and alliances. So it's this great PowerPoint presentation, and we've got some videos embedded in it. And so really kind of talking a little bit about what we talked about today, the differences between just traditional collaborative and like, what that entails versus, an alliance, and something really, where people have strong buy-in, and how you can get to that. Some great ideas on how to get maybe started or get talks going with your municipal leaders, your city leadership. A lot of great tips. We'll talk about our staffing model. We talk about finances and grants and how we get to do this on a shoestring budget, and just a little bit of everything. So by all means, as soon as the state puts that on the CDE's website, we can also, I can let you know, or they can also go to the Chino Valley District website and look under HIP. So that's Homeless Innovative Programs, and it's called the HIP Toolkit. And they'll have free access to everything. And I mean everything. It'll be like our strategies, our, our job descriptions, everything that has
nothing back in your
nothing. And someone asked me why we would do that. Why would you do that? Why would you work so hard for all of your curriculum and all of your forms that you've developed? Why would you share it? Because it's the right thing to do. Because if it serves other kids, if it serves districts, and it can help other people, why would we not?
I know that is the question. Why wouldn't we?
Why wouldn't we? Absolutely.
Liz, I got to say, every time you and I get to talk, I just come away more energized, more inspired. So it's so fun. Thank you for saying yes to being a guest on the podcast.
Loved it. Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Oh, love it. I will put folks in the link. We'll have a hyperlink to the school district's website. I'm sure by the time this airs, all that will be up and going. Yes. And then when she said CD, that's the California Department of Education.
Department of Education. Sorry, all my acronyms.
Hey, when you're in the speak, the acronyms flow. So yeah, I just thought I'd point that out for anybody who might be in another state.
Yes.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. And
thank you, Sarah. It was great talking to you.
Bye.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic vision coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. So please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Until next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.